2015, and boy, we're almost into October, and woo, is this year gone by fast. And this is Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Tonight, I'm very excited. We're going to talk about unions, and I have Executive Director Will Fischer from the Union Veterans Council of the AFL-CIO coming on tonight. And we're going to talk about unions, how important they are, and what the Veterans Union actually does. And it's really amazing. And he'll be on in just a few minutes. Before he comes on, do you remember last week when I talked to you about that greedy CEO, Martin Shkreli, and that's Shkreli, that raised the price of the life-saving drum Daraprim from $13.50 to $750 each, right? Because he felt that he just needed to start making a profit. Well, he backed down due to all the public backlash. So for all of you out there that actually, contacted this man and made a complaint, let me clap. Nice work, nice work. So he backed down on it. Now, let me tell you about another corporation out there that's just as bad. And it's Gilead, Gilead, Scions. And they created a drug called Solidai. And you only need 84 pills and it cures hepatitis C. It's a really good thing, right? But they are charging $1,000 a pill. And let's see, they said you needed 84, and that comes up to $84,000 for the cure. I mean, good grief. These are people that started off in hedge funds in the stock market, and now they're into pharmaceuticals, and they're trying to make money off of people dying. That's really, really sick. I mean, talk about Wall Street gone greedy and predatory. They're nuts. I want to also bring you this week your radiation for the week. And you would say, well, you're talking about unions. Yes, I am. And if you are in the union out there, and if you are out on strike and actually walking that picket line, I would think that maybe you would be interested in knowing how much of a radiation is in your area. You might be interested in knowing that if you're outside walking that picket line, that radiation affects people's hearts. People all over the place are dying of heart attacks, including young people, people that are athletic, people that are outside a lot. So if you are out there on that picket line, I would think you might want to know that you've got a lot of radiation in the air and that you are breathing, that it may affect your heart. And if you had this information, then you might want to go get some cherry juice to strengthen your heart. Add that into your diet. Go buy some heart vitamins. If you have an idea that this is what radiation might do because you're outside a lot, go do something positive. Because, if you guys get sick, you're out on the front line. You are doing nobody any good. So you got to stay healthy. And you have to be conscious. And I'm not giving you the radiation level to scare you. I want to give it to you so you have knowledge, so you can share this with other people who will share it with other people. So they can protect themselves, they can do the cleanse, they can start eating differently. They can take extra vitamins. It makes a difference. How many people that you know out there that were your friends, and I say were, that had cancer, beat it, and all of a sudden their cancer came back and they died really quick? Well, geez, that's what radiation does. But let's get back to what your radiation count is. And last week I also mentioned that there might have been a nuclear event that swept northern West into the U.S. and actually no entity, and no one's taking credit for this nuclear terror, and nobody's acknowledging it except Bob Nichols from Veterans Today, and he is the one that's bringing it up to everybody's attention. And I really honor this man, because if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be hearing the list I'm going to read you. So this was written on September 26, 2015 from San Francisco. Thousands of nuclear savvy people know about the recently unleashed nuclear terror, and no one says a word. No one in authority has breathed a word about the event yet. In a nutshell, here's what happened. A powerful nuclear pulse was created somewhere in the upper Midwest and spread a radioactive wave front outward, hundreds of miles across America's heartland. The pulse was recorded with yet another 1,000-point increase at the few active and published radiation stations, with an unmistakable signature. All right, guys, so this is your radiation for the week. And you have to understand that this is a low count, and normal radiation is 5 to 20 rads. Anything above that is really not good, okay? And you should be really, really aware and concerned. All right, don't be worried, be concerned. If you're concerned, you're going to take some positive action. All right, so here we go. We're going to start at the most highly radiated city in the United States. And once again, that goes to Billings, Montana at 2,238. All right, Portland, 1,920. Omaha, Nebraska, 1,624. Remember what I said, anything above 20 CPMs is bad, okay? Kansas City, Kansas, 1,599. Miami, Florida, 1,403. San Diego, California, 1,022. Little Rock, Arkansas, 1,261 CPMs. Spokane, Washington, 1,188. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1,136. Bakersfield, California, 1,100. Pierre, South Dakota, 1,095. Champaign, Illinois, 1,081. Tucson, Arizona, 1,080. Concord, New Hampshire, 1,066. Rapid City, South Dakota, 1,054. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 1,010. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 979. Boston, Massachusetts, 950. Albuquerque, New Mexico, 944. Montgomery, Alabama, 937. Fort Worth, Texas, 933. Atlanta, Georgia, 932. Los Angeles, California, 927. Lubbock, Texas, 876. Chicago, Illinois, 853. Des Moines, Iowa, 845. Sacramento, California, 805. Indianapolis, Indiana, 763. San Diego, Texas, 759. New York City, New York, 729. Fort Wayne, Indiana, 722. St. Paul, Minnesota, 710. San Francisco, California, 659. Las Vegas, Nevada, 546. Lincoln, Nebraska, 535. Phoenix, Arizona, 546. Dallas, Texas, 492. South Valley, New Mexico, 459. Grand Junction, Colorado, 364. And guess who's at the bottom of the list? Oh, come on, the lowest. Come on, take a guess. Come on, you can take a guess. All right, whoever said Washington, D.C. at 290 CPMs wins. I mean, I don't know what they're doing to protect Washington, but it would be really nice if they did it with the rest of the country. I mean, how in the world can Washington, D.C. have the lowest CPM radiation levels in the country? I'm just saying, all right? So you guys be very careful out there. And if you want to know where that unacknowledged nuclear event happened, unacknowledged source or sources around Lake Michigan said the reactor spread measurable radiation all over the country. Like a devil wind, it could be tracked for several days. Thousands of people know, and no one is talking publicly. So that is your radiation level for the week. And, you know, if you're outside a lot, please take precautions. If you're out on that picket line, you know, come on, do stuff to take and strengthen your heart. You know, go out and get some heart vitamins. Go out and get some cherry juice. And, you know, if your kids are out there outside a lot, playing or working or doing sports, they need extra attention given to their hearts. Why? Because this is not the first time we've been nuked. They've been nuking us since before 1950. And each generation is weaker, and their DNA is weaker, and they're more susceptible to radiation illness and dying from it. But, you know, the doctors and the powers that be are going to say this at all because it's opening up a can of worms, which they don't want to talk about at all. So remember, Fukushima has been putting radiation in the air from Japan for 4 years. None of the governments are addressing it. And Japan's put a gag order on any news from Japan. So knowledge is power. Everybody's breathing this. It doesn't matter where you are. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide from this radiation. So be conscious. If you don't have to go out in the rain, then don't. Because you don't know how radioactive the rain is or the snow is anymore. Unless you got a Geiger counter, and I want a Geiger counter for Christmas. So we're going to be talking about unions. And why am I bringing unions up? Because I love unions. I am the product of a UAW union member, and my dad worked for Cadillacs for 35 years. Now that's a long time. And he retired at 62, and he got benefits for 20 years. He was taken care of. He was allowed to live that American dream. And he was also one of the first people. If he would have lived, he would have been 104. He was one of the people that was out there on those picket lines way back when the motor companies were really trying to put the screws to all their workers. And those guys stood firm, and they won rights. And my dad got his head knocked in, ended up going to the hospital having brain surgery. But man, he was proud of the union. And, you know, all I could see growing up is the union kept getting my dad raises. Because of the union, he got time and a half after 40 hours, double time, triple time on holidays. You know, these guys, health care was provided. You know, it goes on and on. I mean, again, you had vacation time, you had sick time that you can accumulate and then use that for vacation time. Unions rock. And for every union win is a win for the little guy, for you and me. And that's why I'm bringing on
Your call
unions.
has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Will Fischer
Is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press.
Okay, well, that's Will Fischer. That was really strange. Don't you just love live radio? You just never know what's going to happen, do you? I hope he calls back. Do you want to call him, Liz? So unions rock. And there's nothing like bringing a group of people together with a common cause, and magic happens. And throughout our history, unions have won battles for many, many years. And it's not recorded in the history books. You know, if you want to learn a little bit about unions, you've got to go to different history books. And you'll see over and over where people have come together and they picketed and they've striked and they've won.
This is Will.
Hi, Will. This is Cathy Bilsky, the Quantum Leap. How are you doing?
Very well, Cathy. How are you tonight?
Oh, wonderful. Welcome. And thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, I am so honored. You're with the union's Veterans Council, the AFL-CIO. And do you want to tell everybody what that is?
Yeah, thank you so much. So the Union Veterans Council, what we do is we work to bring union members and potential union members who are veterans together to speak out primarily on the issues that are impacting veterans most, especially the need for folks to have access to good jobs after their service is complete and access to quality health care delivered through a strong, fully funded, fully staffed VA. Now, additionally, what we do is educate our members on where people really stand on the issues. As anyone can attest, when it comes to campaign season, there's not a politician running for anything in America who doesn't like to spend their time talking about how much they support veterans and support the troops and want to honor people's sacrifice. But then when they get back to state capitals and to Washington, D.C., that's not always the way they vote. Very often you'll see folks running back talking about how they're pro-veteran in one sentence and then voting against things like the GI Bill, voting against things like funding for the VA, and obviously supporting issues that impact workers negatively, like bad trade deals and the like. We very firmly believe and constantly seek to remind people that the veterans class and the working class is one and the same, that the issues facing veterans and those facing working families aren't independent of each other. A lack of good jobs and attacks on health care affect all of us. And the more and more that we're able to lift up that message, the more and more we'll be able to mobilize, organize, and win battles for veterans and battles for working families.
Well, you said you're an ex-Marine that fought in Iraq. Now, how did you get from there to joining the Union Veterans Council and actually becoming an executive director? You're young.
Well, Kathy, I should let you know there's no such thing as an ex-Marine, and certainly your listeners in Hawaii who may be Marines, I have to make that point. You're a Marine for life. But yeah, I joined the Marine Corps while I was still a senior in high school, and like a lot of people, I initially enlisted as a reservist, and then I had the impeccable timing of graduating boot camp in August of 2001. So my time as a reservist ended up being pretty short-lived. I was activated and deployed with India Company, 3rd Battalion, 24th Marines, and we deployed with the 1st Marine Division to Anbar Province, Fallujah, Iraq in 2004. I come from a union household, so when I got out of the service, I had the good fortune of using my GI Bill to finish my degree, and then I professionally started working with the trade union movement following the 2008 election cycle. And due to my veteran status and being a trade unionist, I'm a member of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Due to that, I had the good fortune and honor of being asked to lead the Union Veterans Council about 3.5 months ago.
Well, you said you came from a family that, of union people. How did that affect you?
Well, I did. I came from a family of proud trade unionists, and I think that, my grandmother went to the hospital the other day, nothing big, just as a checkup, and, because my grandfather was a member of the United Auto Workers, she didn't have to mortgage her house to go to the hospital. And that was because of collective bargaining agreements and victories that they won through collective action. My father was also a member of the UAW, and like I said, I'm a member of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, and previously I've been a member of the Newspaper Guild in previous work as well. But it certainly affects you when you see, especially, somebody my age that grew up, I entered my professional life really as, 10 years after NAFTA, right after normalizing trade relations with China, the WTO, et cetera. And I've just watched industry after industry after industry leave this country, and seeing people, many of whom are veterans, have their jobs and their livelihoods taken away and sent overseas, by people who want our country to compete in a race to the bottom. They not only take jobs from Americans, but where they send those jobs due to the negotiations through bad trade deals, they go to pay people extremely low wages. They go to places and have no environmental standards. And because of that, really no one's winning. No one's winning anything. There are people who are profiting, but no one is winning anything.
I grew up in Michigan, and I'm 62, so I was there when factories were in their heyday. And, my dad worked for Cadillacs, and he made really, really good money. So I got to experience all of that. And, I'm the byproduct.
Was he out of the Cadillac facility there in Detroit?
Yeah, yes, he was tool and die there.
Oh, that's, my grandfather was a tool and die worker as well. After the Second World War, he was able to use his GI Bill money to go to tool and die school, and then ended up getting a job at Ford Glass Plant. And, I know some folks who are members at a UAW Local 22 there in Michigan, and they work in those Cadillac facilities today.
My dad retired after 35 years, and I wish I could find what UAW local he was in. Maybe one day.
I think if he was in Detroit, I imagine he was in Local 22. But if you wanted to, you could probably call UAW's international headquarters, which is located there in Detroit. It's called Solidarity House, and you may be able to talk to somebody in their retiree department who would be able to go look at some past records. I mean, your father paid dues for 35 years, so they would be able to tell you what local union he was with.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome.
Yeah, and you have to realize, maybe you do realize, that there are so many people out there that haven't got to experience what it's like to be part of a union, what it means in your life, what it means to your family. And
absolutely.
And because the government and many of the governors don't want unions. They are trying to union bust. They don't want people to come together, and they're trying to give bad PR toward unions. And
you're absolutely right. And look, Cathy, it's the strength in the union is when people are coming together and acting collectively. And the point of a union gives someone much more than a few extra dollars in their pocket and some better benefits. The union gives people a voice on the job, the ability to walk to work, walk on their job site, carrying with them dignity and respect. And that comes through being able to collectively bargain for a fair reward for the job that you do. Really, it is that collective action. And it's the collective action that led to things like getting rid of child labor. It's the collective action that we were able to get safety standards in workplaces. These things weren't just given to workers. If you look at the state of workers in the past and even the state of workers today. A boss has never given anything to their employees. It's been through collective action or fear of collective action that workers have been able to make the gains that they have.
Well, your union Veterans Council is affiliated with the AFL-CIO. Now, what does that stand for?
The AFL-CIO, it's an acronym for the American Federation of Labor, Congress of Industrial Organizations. Just a quick history lesson, you have, at one time, you used to have the AFL and the CIO, which were two separate labor bodies. One primarily focused their efforts around what people would call skilled labor or craft unionism. People who had an apprenticeship and were journeymen, so electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, steam fitters, things like that. And then you would have the CIO, which did mass industrial organizing. That was their goal from the onset. So the United Auto Workers, the steel workers, where they were organizing great numbers of people under collective bargaining agreements based on their industry, not broken out down into what their individual craft was. So at an auto assembly plant, you wouldn't have the tool and die makers would be one union. The people who painted cars would be one union. The people who, assembled the cars would be one union. Whereas instead, they negotiated bargaining agreements to cover all the workers under one union.
Can I ask?
And then in 1955, those two labor bodies merged to form the AFL-CIO.
I don't know if you have the answer for this, but when back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, probably early 80s, they actually had apprentice programs that you could get into.
Oh, we still do. And we still do. Second only to the United States military, the American labor movement, the unions, and here in the United States, train more people than anyone else in this country. I want you to think about that for a second. Aside from the military, excluding them, no one in this country trains more people and offers more training than the trade union movement and the unions that make that movement up. We have a lot of apprenticeship programs. Many of our unions have apprenticeships, and some are actually tailored to military. I can tell you right now, one union that pops to mind, the United Association, that's the plumbers, pipe fitters, steam fitters, they're actually working on some military bases, getting some people trained right before they're going to get out, so that when they do get out of the service, they're able to transition right into an apprenticeship program the day they get out. No break, no period of unemployment, trying to let down that uncertainty, be vanquished for a moment, and let people get right into those apprenticeship programs. And we still have those. We have another program for veterans that we work with. It's called the Helmets to Hard Hats, which primarily does work with building and construction trades unions, and that works to get veterans lined up with those apprenticeship programs that you were just speaking of.
Well, how do people, if they want, and if there's any young kids, 18, 19, 17, whatever, that are looking for a career, how would they be able to get into these apprentices? How would they apply? How would they find these programs?
No, that's a wonderful question. I will tell you, if they're interested in entering a building trades apprenticeship program, then I would tell them to where they're from. Each area in this country is divided up into jurisdictions, and each jurisdiction would have a building and construction trades council. So you could type in Hawaii Building and Construction Trades, and when you type that in on the computer, if you have the ability to access one at the library or at home, that the phone number will be on there, and you should call them and tell them that you're interested and arrange a meeting. to kind of think about when you go to those websites or when you connect with somebody by the phone, take a look at the different types of careers, whether it's an electrician, a painter, a floor covering specialist, plumber, pipe fitter, steam fitter. There are a host of unions, a laborer. I mean, really, the list goes on and on and on.
Okay, I want to stop right here just a minute. And for all you parents that have kids that really don't have an idea what they want to do, or help them, guide them in this. This Will is giving you some totally new possibilities of how your kids can get a career that I'll bet you never even heard of, because I wasn't aware of this, Will. This is so fantastic.
No, and I'll tell you, the word that you used today is the optimal word when talking about jobs like this is career. These are, I'm going to be honest. After your apprenticeship is finished and you reach a journeyman status, then you live a pretty damn nice life. We've allowed ourselves in this country to have our heads wrapped around this idea that in order to be able to own a home someday, we have to go to college. And how many people do we see going to college and racking up tens and tens of thousands of dollars in student debt and then still not being able to find a job? What the Building Construction Trades Apprenticeship Program can offer you is the other 4-year degree, the ability to enter an apprenticeship program and become the most highly skilled, best trained professional in your line of work that allows you to work and live pretty much anywhere and make a really great living doing it. And at the same time, you're going to be able to walk to work. And if you're a iron worker and you're walking down the sidewalk and you pass a building that you helped put together, you're going to walk by that and be able to look at that building and know that you helped put that together. You're going to be able to walk by and see what you do every day. And I think there's something really special about that.
Oh my God. I remember, God, I feel so old, when people were getting into the apprentice programs in the UAW, the motor companies, they were just absolutely thrilled because they knew what that meant, that they were being given a career, that they were being taught a lot of skills, and it's learned by doing. It's practical application. It's like you said, it's not like going to college and filling your head up with a bunch of stuff that really won't have any meaning in your job, because when you get to that job, you got to forget it anyway, because they're going to train you for that job. So
absolutely.
Apprenticeships.
And you, in addition to being a 4-year degree, I think everybody likes the idea of being able to earn while you learn. Apprentices are paid during their apprenticeship, and obviously when they reach journeyman status, their pay goes up, just as it would in any profession. And for you folks out there who are listening who might be veterans, I want to let you know something that the military doesn't always do the best job of letting you know, and that's that you can use your GI Bill funds to go towards offsetting your expenses and pay while you're in an apprenticeship program. So many people think that your GI Bill can only be used to go to college, but you can absolutely use that to give yourself a little extra money when you're going through an apprenticeship on top of your salary that you'll already be receiving.
Well, how would they get information on that from you?
On their GI Bill, they would get that they would get that through the VA. But I would say if you do need resources like that, if you visit our website, unionveterans.org, I hate to only talk about websites because I realize not everybody has a computer. But if you can get to a library or anything like that, or borrow a friend's, you can visit us at unionveterans.org. On the site, we have a resources section, and we do have one link that people can click on, and it'll direct them not only to that Helmets to Hard Hats program I was talking about, but also to the VA that will spell out some of the other benefits available to folks.
I think this conversation is amazing. I really do. I know so many kids that really don't have a clue what to do with their lives, and this just opens up whole new possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, and you're there in Hawaii. You have a very strong building construction trades. I mean, you have a very strong labor movement there in Hawaii. It's one of the most union-dense states in the union. And I would tell you that your building construction trades industry is very strong there as well.
Amazing. Like I said, I'm really shocked at that there still is apprenticeship program. And again, I encourage you parents out there, if you've got kids looking for work, this is going to give them a career and a job while they're they're being paid to learn. Hello, that's what and you don't start way at the bottom in an apprenticeship program, do you? I mean, to get into that kind of program, do they test you? You have to have some kind of skill.
Some will definitely require some what's called pre-apprenticeship training. And again, that's something that your local, the local union you're working with or apprenticeship coordinator would let you know all of those requirements and what your pre-apprenticeship requirements are before, and they will have all of those answers to those questions for you.
Well, they sound like they want you to be successful.
Yeah, and absolutely.
What a concept. So how did you end up actually affiliated with the AFL-CIO when there's also the Teamsters out there, union, mm-hmm. and I can't go beyond that other than the...
Well, the AFL-CIO, just so people know, is actually a federation of unions. The AFL-CIO is not a union itself. So there are 57 different unions affiliated with the AFL-CIO. So it's the federation. And we are a program of the AFL-CIO, but we have our own board. We, have our own bylaws, all of that, and then we work with our affiliated unions as well as those who are not affiliated. So the Union Veterans Council, we have 32 affiliates. The chair of our board is a man named J. David Cox, who's the president of AFGE, that's the American Federation of Government Employees. We have two co-chairs. One is a gentleman named Bill Height, who's the president of the UA, that's the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union, and the other is Cecil Roberts, who is president of the United Mine Workers of America.
Okay. Now, I think we got a little bit of time. Now, you said that veterans issues and the working class are related and they're intertwined. Mm-hmm. Do you want to expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean, look, Cathy, at the end of the day, I can't put it any more bluntly than just telling people, and if you ask them, veterans, to think about it, there's no one that can disagree with the fact that the veterans class and the working class are actually one and the same. Cathy, you mentioned earlier my service in Iraq. Well, nobody I served with came home and went to work at Lehman Brothers. Nobody I served with came home and went to work on Wall Street and it was one percenter. The people who serve in the military and fight our nation's wars, fight for our rights in the defense of our nation, are by and large wage earners. And very often when you see folks back here at home fighting for their rights on the job, they've already fought for our rights overseas. And when you look right now, what people who are getting out of the service need more than anything is a job, a good job. And there's a big difference between a job and a good job. You can see all the reports you want to that say, oh, veterans unemployment is going down. Well, Feeding America says that the number of veterans who are seeking assistance at food banks is going up. So, yeah, there's a big difference between a job and a good job. And the more and more that we're able to get people in a position and get our country back on the right track of making things, of building things, the more and more good jobs are going to be available. and good jobs available for the millions of veterans in this country. I think I don't hesitate in saying that we hear in the news a great deal about the very high veteran suicide rate. Well, I believe wholeheartedly that a piece of that can come back to the lack of good jobs in this country. And you have other issues like our underfunded and understaffed VA. We hear about the VA in the news all the time, right? The VA this, the VA that. Well, in the wake of last year's secret waitlist scandal, where VA managers, they manipulated numbers to make it appear that more veterans were being seen than actually were. VA managers did that. And in the wake of that scandal, Congress passed laws giving the VA secretary, the ability to fire bad managers and some of the resources needed to handle the influx of veterans coming into the VA system. And today, the VA is seeing more folks than ever before and delivering quality health care designed specifically for veterans by, in many cases, veterans themselves, because over 100,000 employees of the VA are actually veterans. But in the wake of that scandal, instead of trying to figure out ways to provide better care for veterans, this has all of a sudden become a partisan issue, and folks like Bush, Marco Rubio, Ben Carson, the Koch brothers, they've seen this secret waitlist scandal as an opportunity to chip away at people's basic workplace rights in an attempt to privatize veterans' health care. And that's repugnant. The idea that we should allow people to profit off the care of veterans is disgusting. And, I know we were scheduled to talk about health care a little bit, and I think that this is a huge, huge issue. If anything, we should be expanding the VA. We should be putting more funds into the VA. If we can afford to send people all over the world to war for 14 years, then I don't think it's too much to ask that we make sure that we can afford to take care of those veterans after they get back home. And the best way to do that is to expand, grow, fully fund, and fully staff the VA. And I know we were talking about jobs, but the fact that the VA, I can't get it out of my mind, because it is becoming a very politicized issue right now, with people like Ben Carson saying a few weeks ago, we don't even need a Department of Veterans Affairs. Well, I'd like to take Ben Carson up to Bethesda Naval Hospital and let him tell those folks we don't need a Department of Veterans Affairs, or go to a VA clinic in Hawaii where somebody's learned how to walk again on their new prosthetic legs, that we don't need a Department of Veterans Affairs. And this is, again, a total attempt to privatize the VA. And the folks who are doing this, they've even gone out and organized their very own, and I say this lightly, veterans group, the Concerned Veterans for America, which is a group, and I don't hesitate to say it in a moment, that are traitors to their fellow veterans. These people offer full-throated support to privatizing the VA, to privatizing veterans' retirement benefits, turning them into a 401k, and other policies of the 1%.
I'm just really, I love listening to you talk, because you need to say this. I think we've got 5 minutes left before we go on break. Do you have a list of, how do you feel about the Congress and the Senate when and like you said, they send you all out to war, and then the very next breath, they're taking funds away from your health care? Absolutely.
Well, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that we've never I believe you can say never, and if you can't say never, it's pretty close. Never had as few veterans in the Congress as we do right now. So there is absolutely an unfamiliarity, with those folks, and certainly those one percenters that are writing those big campaign checks, they certainly never served. I think make no mistake about it. You talk about the veterans class and the working class being one and the same. The same people who build fortunes off the sweat and the labor of others and try to exploit workers here at home, those are the same people who are more than willing to fight wars until the last drop of someone else's blood is spilled, until the last child of someone else is killed.
So do you actually keep a list of these congressmen and Senate men and women that don't walk the talk, shall we say?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said at the top of the hour, we try to work to educate people on where folks really stand on the issues, and I think people are often a little surprised with what they hear. We haven't heard really veterans mentioned at all in the first two presidential debates, and I've had people ask me, like, why do you think that is? And, one of the biggest reasons, I think, is because some of the people who we've been seeing up there on the debate stage thus far don't have much of a record to stand on. These are the same people who want to privatize the VA, which is something that is very unpopular among veterans. These are the same people who voted against things like the GI Bill a few years ago. The original GI Bill after the Second World War, where it just said if you went to serve, you can go to school, you can go to training, it's free. There was none of this partial funding this, it's free, paid for. Has been cited by some as to be one of the greatest economic investments our country has ever made. And some estimates say that our country made $7 back for every $1 invested in the GI Bill. And if you ask me, I think it's also the number one thing that set us up to land on the moon after 10 years after President Kennedy made that challenge to the nation, because you had a generation of people who were educated. And we all know the power that comes with education. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that people right now haven't been talking about those issues because, in addition to voting against those veterans issues, look, they support bad trade deals. They support union busting. Scott Walker, for crying out loud, just pulled out of the presidential race. He is an enemy of working people. Absolutely, and many of these other folks who spend all of their time.
Who is Scott Walker? Tell everybody who he is.
Yeah. Scott Walker is the current governor of Wisconsin and a former presidential candidate. He found out when he tried to build a presidential campaign around attacking workers and unions, that didn't play too well, and he was forced to drop out of the race about 10 days ago.
I don't understand why they can't get him out of Wisconsin.
Well, they're certainly working.
Well, and the guy has done a lot to wreck Wisconsin. I mean, I think that the powers that be, whoever they are, have set him up to use the state of Wisconsin as a trial and error to see if whatever their plans are, if they can get them, implemented in Wisconsin, then they can do it in any state.
Absolutely. So in addition to the Koch brothers, there's an organization out there called ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, which is a fringe right-wing group that writes legislation, buys politicians, and just gives them the legislation and say, enter this in, vote on it, pass it, or we're going to primary you. and you're not going to be in office anymore. So, yeah, this is just recycled legislation in state after state after state after state, all of it done to hurt working families and add to the coffers of the top 1%.
Absolutely. And, you know, the veterans are the working class. You know, when
Absolutely.
they leave,
Again,
they are in the working class.
and when they come back home, I mean, again, I've already said this, but again, what people want when they get out of service more than anything is the ability to get a job that allows them to own a home, raise a family if they want to, and someday retire, and retire with dignity.
Will, don't go away. We're going to come back for the second hour, talk more about unions, but we've got to go on break, and we'll be right back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. This is Cathy Bilsky, the Quantum Leap Let Light Unite show on Revolution Radio at freedomsloops.com. And Revolution Radio is a listener-sponsored station, and you know, we depend on you to keep afloat like everything else. So keep those donations coming in. We appreciate everything and anything. And, you know, just go to their website and they've got a donation button. Can't get any easier. Then you can buy our old shows and have a, you know, something mutually beneficial. And I know they've got some really other yummy products on there that you can get that, you know, it's really lovely to have, and you're supporting the station. And if you want more information about me, you can go to my website at www.angellighteom.com. That's ANGELITEOM.com. And I've got all my healing products there, pain and stress release, my curse removal, energy balancing. If you look under free healing, you can download that for free. And if you need that soul retrieval, which is helping you take back all your energy that you've given away or people have taken from you from all your incarnations. And I also do a major curse removal, remove your mother's and father's overlay. And you can do that. I'm up on YouTube. So I actually have a double soul retrieval if you really want some quantum forward movement in your life. Just be careful with that work, okay? And you can also catch me on Facebook. But if you're going to be my friend on Facebook, you better mention the radio show, because if you don't have any friends and I'm the first one, I probably won't befriend you, okay? So, you know, mention the radio show. And I do a lot of my power prayers up there. We do a lot of energy work. And then if you're around Hawaii, I'm in the big island, Honoka'a, and I have a rock shop there. It's Cathy's Angel Light Crystals, Miracles, and Joy, where I do free pain and stress release for anybody that's open. And I do little free mini massages with my angel light tools. It really helps you release that energy that you really no longer serves you. And you can come lay on my angel light table and check out the biggest earth keeper in Hawaii, my 1,000-pound celestial earth keeper, Ela. And you can hug her. And you know, I'm usually there 7 days, but don't come early, don't come late, and you'll probably catch me. And my phone number is 808-775-9400. That's my store phone. And you can try between 11 and 4 Hawaiian time. But I also do a lot of my energy work over the phone. So if you want something more personal, then give me a call. So we were talking about unions, and we're talking, to Will Fischer. Had a memory little bubble. And Will is with the Union Veterans Council that's affiliated with the AFL-CIO. Are you still there, Will?
I am, Kim.
It's okay.
Cathy,
it's Cathy. I am.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I don't test you, but everybody else is going, Kim. Ooh. You know, I wanted to talk more about how the health care and the lack of health care that the veterans are receiving is actually affecting everyone out there that's working class because of what they're going through. And, you know, you going through battle and war do you find yourself acting and reacting differently after you've come back from battle and you're trying to, get back into normal life? I mean, do you find if somebody blows a tire, you find yourself ducking?
I think it's different for everybody, and again, though, because it is different from everybody, that's one of the things that makes the VA and the health care being provided through a strong, fully funded and staffed VA so valuable, because if someone were to be going through an issue like that, they're able to go to, a clinic or a hospital, and when they say how they're being affected or what's going on, they're going to be talking to someone who's going to understand what they're talking about. And they may even be talking to a veteran who is talking to someone who is also a veteran and would certainly be able to identify with what that person's saying. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of healthcare in this country, first off, I'll just go ahead and say it's my fundamental belief and that of the labor movement that healthcare is a right, that it's wrong that we have people choosing between, keeping the lights on in their house and paying for medicine, that we have people, missing meals because the child has a doctor's appointment. That's just fundamentally wrong. We're the wealthiest country in the world, and yet we have, people who aren't able to go get basic medical procedures. And, that's why we fight every day for that. We fight every day for that for all working people, not just union members.
If people wanted to support you, how would they get a hold of you, Will?
Yeah, I would encourage all of your listeners to check us out at unionveterans.org. That's UNIONVETERANS.org. And also check us out on Facebook, Union Veterans Council, AFL-CIO, and follow us along there. Visit us on our website. We're growing, Cathy. We are growing. Just, I'll tell you, in the last 3 months since I've come on board, we've increased our membership by over 20,000 new people in the last 3 months.
That's because you're cool and you come on radio shows like mine.
And I guarantee you, Cathy, before this conversation's over, there's going to be somebody out there listening who's going to found out about us and is going to join up because they were listening to your show tonight. So thank you so much for that. But I'll tell you, the reason we're able to grow so much is because, again, the veterans class and the working class are one and the same. I've yet to be on a shop floor or at a union's convention or a local union meeting and ask the veterans in the room to stand up. And I don't do that to say thank you. We can leave that to the football games. But it does illustrate that story because I have yet to ask that question where at least 40% of the room didn't stand up. And if you ask, would all the veterans or the mothers and fathers of veterans please stand up or raise your hand, it's well over 50% every time. And again, that's because the veterans class and the working class is one and the same, and an attack on workers is categorically an attack on veterans.
Well, it's the same thing. An attack on veterans is an attack on the working class because the veterans are the working class.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. Now, I've somehow I got on the right-wing program, the Heritage program, and they send me these emails. And I don't know, but I think I wrote them back and said, please take me off your email list. And the next thing I know, it's like, oh, come join us. We've got this program. We're going to show you we're going to make change. And they're a big lobby organization also. But I'm listening to and reading what they're sending me because they are so darn organized.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, that's what we're trying to do. And that is what we are doing. And I would encourage people, when you go on and sign up, you will, we put out, actually starting here in a couple weeks, we're going to be put a regular newsletter out. And then follow us on Facebook. You'll be able to see all of the things that we're constantly putting out. letting people know about what's going on in the news, letting people know about what's going on up on Capitol Hill, and again, letting people know where folks really stand on the issues, because it's important for people to know.
Well, one of the things the other side does is, and not only getting the word out, but they really encourage people to call that
Yeah, and we do
congressman or
that as well.
congressman, and they give them a script. I mean, they are just put together.
Yep, and that's what we do too. We let people know, like I said, when those are issues coming up on the Hill that are impacting veterans and workers, we've let our folks know and about those. We encourage them to call, and of course, like anybody, we let them know what our position is, and if they choose to use those talking points, then great.
Well, I think it's really important because it's allowing people to actually support you without being on the picket line, so to speak. And all they have to do is, punch in letters and numbers and zip it off, and they've given you some support.
And I would encourage all of your listeners, you do not have to be a union member. You don't have to be a veteran to join us. So visit our website, unionveterans.org. Click on the link. It takes 10 seconds. Just your first name, last name, zip code, and email address. Sign up to stay in the loop, and we welcome you.
Well, you've talked about how hard it is fighting for benefits for veterans that they deserve, and and how frustrating it is on how our legislative body reacts to it. And they speak one way and then they turn around and they do another.
Well, again, and that's why we are working so much to bring veterans together to speak out on issues, because just as we've made gains for workers through collective action, that's the same way that we're going to be able to put people's feet to the fire and make positive changes for veterans and our families.
And that's important because it's just not the veteran themselves, but that extends to the families, to the relatives, and then you go out into the workplace. So,
Absolutely.
It's like a ripple effect.
Absolutely. I mean, a child who grows up in a household with a mother or father or both have a union job that allows security in that household, that child is going to grow up in a much different environment than if the parents are unemployed or being paid very low wages, with a lack of security, a lack of health care, and things like that. It's a very different way. So, yeah, I mean, you spoke of it earlier, Cathy. I mean, your life was very different than some other folks because you grew up in a house where your father was working as a UAW member for Cadillac.
He was a journeyman, too, of course. 35 years, tool and die journeyman. He made good money. And, growing up, I don't pay attention. You don't go, God, Dad's really, kicking the bucks in. But when you're able to step back and look at the life that you were given, I was given, it was upper middle class. I mean, we had a home in Dearborn, Michigan. We had a summer home of cabins in the Upper Peninsula. And I'm thinking, how many people get two homes in their lives? A summer home and a winter home. How cool is that?
Well, it's always nice to be up on the UP, huh?
Well, when I was growing up, it was, but I'm kind of resonating to Hawaii right now. I'm good with snow. But during, when I was growing up, it was a different time altogether. And I remember, because he got all the vacation time, how much time we were allowed to spend together, going fishing on the river, going hunting together. It was quality family time.
Absolutely. And it is only through collective action that we can make sure that working families are still able to do that. Because if a boss could work you 7 days a week, they would.
Oh, good God. But what really makes me excited also about what you're talking about is that you don't have to be a member to join a veteran to join your union. And if
Well, to join the Union Veterans Council, which
right.
you don't, and there's no fee to join either.
How easy can it get, right? So if I was going to call you up or write you and say, I want to start becoming a voice for your union, who are the Congress and Senate people that are not walking the talk, not speaking their truth? Would you have a list that I could get, that I could start writing letters to? And I start faxing and emailing and all that kind of wonderful things?
Yeah, that changes really based on, what each issue is different. But yes, as those big pieces of legislation come up on the Hill, a huge one right now that we're focused on is something called the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a global trade deal that is going to involve 43% of the world's GDP, and it's barely being talked about. And it was negotiated in secret, and we're going to be fighting against that very vigorously moving into this next Congress.
Yeah, it's very important. I've heard of it, of course.
We have a looming government shutdown. We have unemployment insurance coming up at the end of the year, and again, these are not strictly just sort of worker issues, but these are absolutely veterans issues, because there will be veterans whose jobs will get sent overseas if the Trans-Pacific Partnership is passed. There are veterans who are unemployed right now, and if unemployment insurance doesn't get renewed, they will go without food and unemployment insurance. There are veterans who are receiving Social Security and VA benefits, and that if a government shutdown happens, will be negatively impacted, and they won't be able to do those things. So, yeah, all of the issues we're talking about, for anyone to say that those aren't veterans issues takes a remarkably high level of uneducation on the issue.
Well, for me, again, when you're saying veterans, I am just going, veterans and working class are the same.
Absolutely.
Veterans are the working class, for goodness sake, who gave up part of their lives to go fight for us, and now has come home, and where are the jobs? Where is the health care that they need to get readjusted back into life?
And that's what we're working on every day.
Well, what other programs are you focusing on?
Again, our two main areas of focus are working to ensure that veterans have access to good jobs and a strong VA, and educating people on the issue. Right now, we're growing every day for those upcoming legislative battles. In 2016, next year, is a major political year, and we will, of course, be wanting to let everybody know where folks really stand on those issues, on our veterans issues, on those working families issues. And we'll be working on that.
Well, I really encourage people to go out and, this is an easy way to do service work and really support your relatives, your friends, your neighbors. And, and again, if you see, like I encourage people, if you see somebody walking a picket line, go buy them a cup of coffee, go buy them a sandwich, or join the picket line. There is something to numbers. So to help
Absolutely.
you.
And as we continue to grow, we will, we're going to make it more available for folks to get together where they live with other members of the Union Veterans Council. And we think that that's going to be a wonderful opportunity for folks to meet other people, to communicate, that are in different lines of work, that have different backgrounds, but have this common theme of being supporters of the Union Veterans Council, whether they're veterans or not, whether they're trade unionists or not.
I think it's really amazing. And I want to talk again, if people want to volunteer and help you, what kind of volunteer program do you have, and how can they do it?
The biggest thing we're doing right now is just really focused on getting our infrastructures in place and growing. So I would encourage all of your listeners to visit us at unionveterans.org, sign up, follow us on Facebook, Union Veterans Council AFL-CIO. We're also on Twitter at Union Veterans. And additionally, when you get to that website, you'll see just about everything with my social and blood type are on there. And give me a call. My phone number's on there, my email address is on there. I ask you not to hesitate one bit to think, don't hesitate at all in reaching out to contact me.
Which I find really amazing, because you're allowing yourself to be accessible to everybody in need.
Well, of course.
Well, that's not normally done, dude. Not from an executive director, okay? And I can see why you have the job. You've got such heart.
Oh, well, it comes easy when it's something that you care so deeply about. Once again, we find ourselves at a historic time in a powerful movement. And again, it's veterans who are here on the front lines. And we have a tremendous opportunity to shape the way that people talk about the trade union movement, the way that people talk about our legislative priorities, the way they talk about our political programs. And the more and more that we're able to grow and bring people together, the more and more successful we're going to be. Because I'll tell you, we're not going to stop fighting. We're not going to stop talking. We're not going to sit back. And we're not going to step down. But we're going to work together. We're going to fight together, and we're going to win together.
All right, Will, now I've talked about people with passion. And you've got a lot of passion for what you do. And I want to know, how do you keep up? How do you keep that passion going? And when things really gets rough for you, what gives you that spark to bring the passion back?
I have the ability and the honor of working for the American trade union movement, which means I go to work every single day. The people who pay my salary are people who work so hard every single day in a variety of different jobs. And I talk to those people every single day. And whether I'm traveling around the country and somebody invites me into their house for dinner, or I'm in another place and I grab a beer with somebody or a cup of coffee, and we just talk about why they go to work, why they want to give a great life to their children, why they want to give a great life to their husband or wife, and why they, those things that they want in their dreams. They're not asking for a yacht the size of the Empire State Building. What people want is basic dignity and respect, and to not be held down by the chains of economic and wage slavery, to be able to go to work and make a decent wage for the job that they do, to go to work and know that they're going to come home and see their family and their spouse and not die at work because it's unsafe work conditions. They want to be able to go to work and know that they're going to be able to retire someday, that they're not going to have to work until they're 90 years old and they fall over and the boss pitches them out just like as if they were a broken tool there in the shop. That's what people want. They want to be, again, basic dignity, respect, a voice on the job, and a fair reward for the job that they do. And the only way we can make those things continue to be realized is by coming together in solidarity, in having one voice and speaking collectively.
Now,
and that's really how I keep my batteries charged, because I never lose sight of the fact that, somebody with a worse job than me is paying my salary through their union dues. Or not a worse job. I mean, somebody is really wearing them, working hard to pay me. And the least I can do is give it everything I've got.
Gosh, you sound like you have so much honor. And you do. I wanted to talk again about something we talked in the first hour, because I feel it is so important with people looking for jobs and thinking that there's not anything out there. And we were talking about the apprenticeship programs that the unions have.
Absolutely. And again, for your listeners, no matter where you live, if you live in the United States, your state has a state building and construction trades council, which, if you have access to a computer, simply would require you to type in Hawaii building trades unions. If you live in Nebraska building trades unions, and then even on a smaller level, depending on where you live in that state, through jurisdictional boundaries, you would have a local building trades council. And if that is something that you are interested in, or a friend of yours or a loved one may be interested in, I would very much encourage you to contact them to learn more about what we like to call the other 4-year degree. Something that's going to allow you the ability to earn while you learn, the ability to learn the skills that are going to give you a career, and the ability to make a pretty nice living. And not to romanticize it too much, but go back to what we talked about earlier. If you're a glazer, which is someone who works with glass, installs glass, you see it on the skyscrapers now in Hawaii. You have the buildings that look like they're entirely glass. You go in after the iron workers have all the metal up, and you go up and you set that glass in. That glass is going to be there until that building's not. And every time you're walking on the street, imagine if you were walking on the street with your son or your daughter, and you looked up and you could say, you know what, your mom, your dad, they helped build that building right there, that building that's touching the sky. Your mom or dad was part of making that happen. And there's a great deal of pride that comes in something like that, and that extends well beyond, the building construction trades. I was talking to a man the other day who worked at a Bethlehem Steel, and where he worked is, like a lot of places, closed and has been sent overseas. But he was talking about how his dad had worked on the steel that they made the St. Louis Arch with. And he carries a tremendous amount of pride with that. I remember walking through a parking lot with my grandfather when I was a kid, and he would walk past a Ford, and he would look at the glass, and he could tell you if it was made in the factory where he worked. Because people take pride in what they do.
They did.
People are very proud.
Did.
There's and they still do. It's the dignity of work. And what we need to make sure people also have the ability, though, is to get a fair reward for that job. Without the workers, the machine stops. Without the workers, the owners can't produce anything. They collect the money, but it's the workers who make the production, who produce the goods. And therefore, the workers for producing those goods should get a fair reward for the job that they do.
So, I would think that if somebody wanted to join, excuse me, a union, you said the AFL-CIO is a federation of unions.
Absolutely. So therefore, by calling the AFL-CIO, I'm hopeful that you would be able to get connected with someone who could describe a little bit about some of the different unions, whether that are operable and operating in your area, whether that's like we've been talking about building and construction trades, or theatrical workers and stagehands, which is another one of our unions, the IATSE. AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees, other people who work at Social Security offices, VA hospitals, the National Association of Letter Carriers, postal workers, mail handlers. It's a wide variety of things. And then the other ones that you watch on TV every Sunday. We also represent NFL football players through the NFLPA, their union, as well as movie stars through the Screen Actors Guild and SAG-AFTRA, their union.
I had a young man come in my store about 4 or 5 days ago, and I started talking to them. Yeah, he's from Hawaii, and I started talking to him about unions, and he goes, "Oh yeah, my friend got a union job, and he's making good money, and blah blah blah." And all I could do is I looked at him and I went, "Duh." I go, "This is, hello, this is why, they've come together, they've united, and they've earned all those rights." And by the time we were done, he just looked at me, he goes, "I'm going to have to check into the union." It's like, duh, wake up. It will make a difference in your life.
Absolutely, and the lives of your family, just as you were talking about earlier.
How many people out there know of kids that are looking for work, and I've said this again, or have jobs that aren't worth anything, that's just get by jobs? Here you've got a union that is willing to train them, give them a career. And, with that, it's like Will said, goes pride, because you're making money. You can afford to take care of yourself. You can afford to take care of your family. You can have a house,
Well,
union.
and also I think that but in talking about this, I think it also just leads us, Cathy, in the importance of talking about the fact that we as a country have a tremendous amount of work to do in investing in our national infrastructure. It's like you can't open the newspaper anymore without reading about a bridge collapsing or plumbing failing somewhere. And our 1/3 of all road fatalities in the United States last year can be attributed to poor road conditions. We have a crumbling infrastructure. There's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done. And not only veterans, but non-veterans as well. There are more than enough people looking for good jobs that we can put to work, getting our country put in a better position to be even more competitive in the 21st century.
I think, didn't they do that, something like that, after one of the wars was over, World War II or something, and helping people get jobs, and they created the Conservation Corps, where they would hire people to go.
The CCC was developed. That was the Civilian Conservation Corps. That was designed during the Great Depression. But after the Second World War, we did a tremendous amount of infrastructure investment in this country. When President General Eisenhower was very keen on getting the interstate system put together. We built bridges, we built roads, we built schools, we built hospitals, and all that stuff is 60, 70 years old now, and needs to be fixed, needs to be replaced. And it's like, what's it going to take for the people to release the funding to do this? They want to throw a Band-Aid over something here and there, but in terms of what we really need, massive infrastructure investment, which again, not only will make us more competitive as a nation because our infrastructure will be better, not only will make our country safer because it will take care of these things, but it also will put a tremendous amount of people to work, making decent money. And you know what people who make decent money do? They spend it. And it will also do wonders for our economy.
Absolutely true. But don't you think that a lot of the infrastructure has been sold to private enterprise?
Some of it has, but still the great majority of it still, gets federal and state dollars. And, when we have highway bill reauthorization, which is something we're constantly working on, hasn't been passed for a long term since 2006. They just extend. But in terms of putting together a really, the kind of highway package in the right direction, we're constantly working and trying to get folks to move in that direction and make it happen.
Well, I don't like driving through potholes and sinkholes, I'll tell you.
No. Oh.
Well,
What's next, Cathy?
Well, you're doing awesome. I've gone through all my questions. Oh my gosh.
Well, I can't thank you enough for having me on. And to all your folks out there listening, once again, by the way, if anybody's listening and saying, man, where in the world is this guy from? What's that accent? I should let you know I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee. So I come by this accent honestly. But I can't thank you enough for allowing me on, Cathy, tonight. To all your folks out there listening, check us out. Visit us at unionveterans.org. Takes 10 seconds to sign up. Once you do that, it's no cost to you. You can stay in the loop on things that we have going on. Also, check us out on Facebook at Union Veterans Council, AFL-CIO, and follow us on Twitter at Union Veterans.
Can't get any easier than that. Well, thank you very much, Will, and I really appreciate you coming in and sharing so much about unions.
Anytime. Well, Cathy, you give me a call later on, and we'll figure out when I can come on again.
Oh, you got it. All right.
All right,
well,
you take care.
All right, aloha.
Yep, you take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was awesome. And guys, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of kids that are looking for work that need a direction. And, when an apprentice program is dropped in your lap where that they can go in another direction and, the possibilities are out there, go for it. Check it out. Because I know growing up, those apprentice programs rocked. People knew that once they got into that program, they had a career. And, you make good money when you're in an apprentice program. And it's lovely that the unions have set up a program where they can help you qualify for the program and share with you what you need to do. And wow, I think that's awesome. And I personally know of a few young people in my life and in my friend's life that could really use this direction. So the name of the show is Quantum Leaping the World into Divine Enlightenment. And that's what coming together is all about. It's like having one huge union. And to me, that means, it's family, earth, and abundance. And, again, family is like a big union. It is family. You care about each other. You know each other. You cooperate together. And you're helping each other. And that's what you do. And I know in Hawaii, my goodness, that's just what you do here. You help each other. You're on an island. And the earth, quantum leaping the world into divine enlightenment, is about the earth. And thriving in a transformed, clean, pristine world. And it's abundance, where everyone has what they need. No one lacks for anything. And you share, what extra with those who are in need. When's the last time you cleared out your closet and given away stuff that you really don't wear and you don't need? And it's also getting cold where people are out there in the cold. And if you got winter clothes and blankets, go find a homeless person, go find a homeless family, go to a homeless shelter, drop the clothes off. They will be very, very appreciative. And to me, quantum leaping the world into enlightenment is helping everybody reconnect to the Creator, where you know better, and you're kind and loving and you're compassionate, and you act on those emotions. And I believe we're going to go there. And that's what our destiny is about. And part of that, getting there, has to do with the coming together of groups like the unions and supporting each other on a grassroots level. And knowing that you're not alone. There's many other people you can depend on. That's the union. So go check it out. Go see what unions are around in your area. What can you join? How can you support? Anybody picketing that needs support? Go help them. Go give them a cup of coffee. Go give them, give them a sandwich and show them you support. That doesn't take a lot of effort. And their win is a win for everybody. All the working class. Someone wins a strike, everybody's elevated. And it also gives you something to go on and to win the next time around. And it's a great example. So Thom Hartmann wrote this about unions, and considering this is a union show, I wanted to read this to you. And he writes, it's official, unions are still very, very good for workers. According to not one, but two new reports, collective bargaining is the best tool we have to raise wages and increase opportunity for workers. The first report was released by the Center for American Progress last Wednesday, and it focused on economic mobility and the ability to improve upon the economic situation of one's birth. The author of that study found a strong relationship between union membership and intergenerational mobility. In other words, children who grew up in union households were more likely to lead a better life than their parents. How incredible. The other analysis, which was released last Friday by the AFL-CIO's Center for Strategic Research, draws a clear line between union membership and higher wages. Separately and together, these reports show how important it is to protect our collective bargaining rights and why we should celebrate when workers declare a victory. According to the AFL-CIO report, in the first half of 2015, workers who bargained for new contracts saw an average wage increase of 4.3%, and despite the right's best efforts, even more employees will fight to form unions in the upcoming year. Richard Trumka, president of the AFL-CIO, said, "This report provides clear evidence that joining a union and bargaining with your employer is the most effective way to give workers the power to raise their own wages." He added, "When working people speak with one voice, our economy is stronger and all workers will do better." The Republican war on unions hasn't stopped people from organizing, but we need to fight hard to make sure our collective bargaining rights don't disappear. Wow, this is really cool. Leaving an abusive spouse is a difficult task for any victim, but one moving company is looking to make that move a little easier. The California-based company Meathead Movers helps women and men who find themselves trapped in abusive relationships. The company teams up with local nonprofits that assist domestic violence victims, and they donate their recollection service free of charge. They founded the company in 1997, and they employ college athletes who share their beliefs about helping those in need. In an interview with LA Weekly, CEO Aaron Steed said, "We know how hard it is to pack up someone's life and move it to a new location, but it's unimaginable to think about a woman and her children trying to pack up all their belongings and flee before an abuser returns home." Meathead makes that possible by coordinating their moves with local shelters and police departments and arriving with a volunteer team that can pack and move quickly. Although most of their clients are women, the movers emphasize that they will help all domestic violence victims, and they're encouraging more companies to do the same. Oh my God, let's give a hand and a 2 thumbs up for the California-based company Meathead Movers. Incredible. People have good hearts out there. And again, this is coming from the working class, helping working people. So these days, a low credit score doesn't necessarily mean someone has been irresponsible. All it takes is a few sudden medical expenses or the loss of a job to lower your FICO score. Despite that, many companies continue to use this information in their hiring process. Thankfully, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Steve Cohen are working to limit when and how this information can be used. Boy, they rock. Last week, they introduced legislation to prohibit managers from reviewing your credit report unless it's required by state law or relevant to the job in question. In an op-ed about the so-called Equal Employment for All Act, the senators wrote, "Credit reporting companies that sell America's personal data to potential employers have pushed the narrative that a credit history somehow provides insight into someone's character." They added, in fact, research has shown that an individual's credit has little to no correlation with his or her ability to succeed in the workplace. Between student loans, medical expenses, and the lingering effects of the last economic collapse, it won't be long before all of us have a few negative lines on our credit. So it's more important than ever that those marks don't keep us from finding a job. And he also adds, the fight for $15 has declared victory in New York State. Last week, Governor Andrew Cuomo used his executive power to raise wages for fast food workers in his state, and he vowed to keep pushing until all workers in New York receive a raise. Governor Cuomo helped make this possible by directing that state's labor commissioner to sign an executive order which raises pay to $15 an hour by 2018, but he needs legislative approval to apply the new wage to all workers. At the announcement, Governor Cuomo said every working man and woman in the state of New York deserves $15 an hour. We're not going to stop until we get it done. The Fight for $15 movement welcomed the news that New York State is joining the cities of Los Angeles and Seattle, and they held rallies around the country to celebrate. They cheered and carried signs saying where they plan to bring the fight next. Whether it's Detroit or Chicago or any city, we already know that won't give up until all workers are given the respect of a living wage. Well, that's the economic and labor news for this week, and we have to thank Thom Hartman for putting that together. And he's a New York Times best-selling Project Censored Award-winning author and host of a nationally syndicated progressive radio talk show. And you can learn more about Thom Hartmann at his website. And you can also find out what radio stations promote his program. Wow, that is just about it for this week. And I want to thank you so much for joining us. And really, guys, talk unions up. You got people looking for work. Think about that apprenticeship program where they pay you to learn. I mean, good Lordy. And you end up with a career that you can take anywhere. You know, there's nothing like joining a union. And when you join a union, you know, they come with benefits. They help you get good jobs. You know, if you qualify, you're in. I mean, anybody can join the union, a union. But it's really, really important that we start joining together and uniting and helping each other. And like I said, you have somebody out there on that picket line, you see, beep their horn, give them a thumbs up, or, you know, make a little effort, buy them a cup of coffee. Stand in line with them, join them. It will make a difference. A little bit of encouragement goes a long way. And when they win, it's a win for everybody. All the working class wins. So be more conscious of who you support and how you support them. Work with that energy of love with your family and your friends. And I just don't mean, you know, going airy-fairy on me, but imagine them wrapped in a bubble of love. Because somebody who's angry, they're disconnected from the creator and they're low energy. So when you're sending them a higher vibration, you're raising that energy. And now they're into a higher vibration and they're thinking different thoughts. So you're doing service work by doing that. Do a random act of kindness. Did you know that there were 1 million kids in Thailand that they brought together just to meditate for peace? I thought that was incredible. I mean, the energy and the vibration that must have come from all those children. Unbelievable. And Lord knows, you know, the earth needs all the positive energy that we can put out. And that's what's going to help us shift into enlightenment and quantum leap us into the golden age of enlightenment. And then we'll know better and all this negative stuff will stop. So the more positive energy you put out, the quicker we're going to be there. Become a little bit more conscious when you do get negative, because you never know when maybe you had a frequency beamed at you that's causing you to react this way, or you're reacting to someone else's person's energy that you've picked up, because we're very telepathic people. And on that note, aloha and have an exceptionally wonderful week.